Okay.
Sometimes before some of the things that I noticed that were weird with him was sometimes before the parties he would come over and Jeffrey Epstein and himself would kind of banter back and forth, and he was Donald Trump was very racist. He said a lot of racist things. Like there was a lot of comments towards Mr. Epstein about being Jewish. And called him a Jew bastard, so that he was cheap. And there was some words I didn't even understand. Something about his the shape of his penis being directly related to his mole. Or I'm not too familiar with the the Jewish tradition. So, but I'm pretty sure that whatever he was saying wasn't very nice. Also referred to, people of Hispanic or, Hispanic name, they called them spics. That was around the first time that the World Trade Center had gotten the bombed in the 90s. And he was, talking about the towel heads and how, we would just be better off if we, didn't let him in or, basically got rid of every single one that was already here. And I felt it made me really uncomfortable, really, really uncomfortable. He also loved to call black people niggers, and Arabic people he called sand niggers. The only time that he tried to give me some money was our last encounter together, where he acted out a rape fantasy. I was forced to give that money back because Jeffrey Epstein paid us after the party. So, but he just gave me the money. I don't even know why he gave it to me. Maybe to make me feel more cheap. But it was a pretty. It was a rape fantasy to him, but I wasn't playing. So. There was those 2 times, and then there was after the next thing that Tiffany approached me with was that he had a fantasy where he walked in on his maids basically making out, and that it was some type of fantasy for him. So she asked. I was at that point. I was like, I don't want to be involved with anything that has to do with him. But she's like, you were just basically the other one. So there's nothing that you will have to do. Just don't, he's requesting you to be involved. So I reluctantly, I felt like I didn't have a choice there. But it was basically he's walking in, his 2 maids. I was one of the maids. I was the white maid. And there was a Spanish girl, Maria, who was the Hispanic maid. And we were making out, and he walks in, and he gets really angry and threatens to call immigration on Maria if she doesn't come over and make things right and give him a blowjob. So while she is over there giving him a blowjob, I am just trying to, I'm supposed to look scared, like, oh no, and cleaning up things and pretending like I'm trying to go back to my job as a maid. And then he's being so rude to Maria. I felt so bad for her, even though I guess it just didn't seem like a fantasy. It didn't seem like it's the weirdest fantasy as far as that. He was threatening to call immigration on her, so that she didn't know how to. She wasn't even near going down to give him. Perform oral sex on him before he slapped her away and said, what are you doing? You need to put a condom on, and she's trying to, I'm so sorry, and he's like, you can't even understand what you're saying, speak English, he called her derogatory comments, and then he's like, you know what, you don't know what you're doing, have her come over and show you how it's done. And so I said that I didn't, I had to go over there or else he was going to call immigration on Maria. I didn't know if it was true or not, but I felt that, he said that if I didn't show her how to perform oral sex on him, then he was going to call immigration on her and then get rid of us both. You know, it was anything that was in relation to him getting off or being satisfied or happy had to do with him being in power, but extreme power. And it's very hard to even. It was always intimidating when he was like that. It was always, you didn't really know if it was true or. I mean, like if you refused to play along, would he really call immigration on Maria? Would he really get rid of us both? And I didn't even want to know what that meant. You know, I always didn't. It wasn't a game. It just felt like it wasn't a game. Yeah. The one night that I had the blonde wig on, he mentioned that I looked like, you know, I looked like to, you know, that I reminded him of his daughter. And actually, the maid fantasy, I didn't have a blonde wig on. I was trying to stay away from blonde wigs at the time. But he actually told Tiffany that that's what he wanted me to wear. Like, he wanted it, and anytime I put it on, anytime I had it on and he'd see me, he would say, "Oh man, you look," and it wasn't like a, "Oh, you remind me of my daughter." It was this sick, evil, like, you remind me of my daughter. It was just this weird pleasure, sick smile. Like, I don't even want to know what he was thinking about. I could imagine what he was thinking about. After the parties would end, we were to report to Mr. Epstein and basically tell him everything that happened, with who, what they liked, what they disliked, if there was any requests, if there was any talk about anything. That's what, you know, we told Mr. Epstein everything. And then he paid us, and then we got to go home. And with me, you know, I would either, you know, I normally got taken to the airport, you know, so to go back home. The fact that Trump has a chance to be the next president makes me feel disgusting inside. I've always been proud to be an American. I think we live in a beautiful country, but I just see him ruining everything. He's a horrible, what he portrays on the outside isn't even that great, but people don't even know the half of how evil, how sick and twisted that man is. I have a friend that's been my friend ever since the school year that I stopped going, you know, the 8th grade. I confided her, and she knows all about it. She knows everything. I mean, I destroyed everything of, like, you know, any planes. I couldn't risk my dad finding out. And now I think I'm old enough to where I don't think, you know, at that point I didn't want to not be his little girl, you know. I didn't want to lose my dad. Basically, I would never, as far as keeping proof of any of the trips, the only person, I never told my parents, you know, there would be no happy, you know, there would be no good outcome of telling my parents. You know, they would have grounded me. I would have never been allowed out of the house. You know, my father would have come unglued. I did tell a friend, she's still my best friend to this day. She knows everything. She knows it all. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to save the country that I believe that we have. I know what he does behind public.